The slates for today in daily fantasy baseball are a bit discombobulated because we have a 3-game slate early on, then we have a 2-game slate tonight. That is technically the main slate. It is a 2-game slate. It is not good. So, what we're going to do for today is change things up a bit. We'll do like a split slate podcast in a way, but essentially, we're going to do the early only slate first and just go pitcher by pitcher. We'll talk about all pitchers, all 10 pitchers across today's slate. So, we will do the early only slate first. If you want some quick thoughts in the main slate, check out the timestamp in the episode description. If you're listening to this after lock at 1:10 for the early only slate. For both slates, I'm just going to give quick thoughts on each pitching situation and say how I view them for stacking or whether I'd use a pitcher in DFS. It'll be a pretty quickie for today. So we'll get through that in just one second. But first, a quick reminder to make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts. We, of course, are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts. You name it, we are there. Later on today, we have our Week 3 NFL DFS recap podcast. Myself and Brandon Gadula breaking down the big takeaways from week number 3, talking about some big roles for some backup running backs and plenty more to discuss there. That is on YouTube at 9 a.m. and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed after that. So subscribe to the FanDuel YouTube page and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts as well. The biggest game of week 3 is still to come. Monday Night Football between the Cowboys and the Eagles. FanDuel is making it even bigger by giving customers 30-1 odds on either team to win. That is new customers. Simply download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today and bet on the most anticipated matchup of the week. See for yourself why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia. New users only. $10 first deposit required. Must wager in designated offer market. Max bonus $150. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Restrictions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. In Tennessee, call the red line at 1-800-889-9789. In West Virginia, 1-800-GAMBLER.net. And in Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. Let's take a look at the early only slate for today. It is a 3-game slate with lock set for 1:10 p.m. Eastern. Weather looks fine here, so you should be good to go and play this thing straight up. Cal Quantrill is the only pitcher with a salary above $8,000. He is $10,000. Dallas Keuchel and Matt Manning are the only other pitchers in the player pool right now. Jackson Kowar will be there eventually because he was announced late last night as being the starter for the Royals. Kowar's salary is $6,000, so still way down there either way. It's a weird slate for sure. And to me, I think it's pretty easy to just go with Cal Quantrill here. Like, we don't need to overcomplicate this. Quantrill's been doing some good stuff recently. He's been good with his batted ball suppression all year long, like on the rotation. But now it looks like he's gunning for more strikeouts. His big whiff pitch is his cutter. It's a slider on Baseball Savant. It's cutter on Pitch Info, whatever it may be. The cutter has a 30% whiff rate on it, according to Baseball Savant. He is throwing that pitch 39% of the time over his past 8 starts. So, no surprise, high whiff pitch, more usage, getting more strikeouts. Strikeout rate in that time is up to 22%. He's still letting up hard contact just 31% of the time. He did just face the Royals last time out, which is kind of annoying since repeat matchup, but he held them to 1 run over 6 2/3 innings. They are letting him go deep in games right now. Quantrill has gone 100-plus pitches in 3 straight starts, so I think he's a good pitcher, and he's trending up. I am very down to use him as my pitcher for today. I know it's $10,000. I know he is the chalk. I don't find any other way to go around this one. I'm not inclined to stack against him. Quantrill is the #1 guy on the early only slate. The guy I view second most favorably is Raverson Martin. The problem is he's not in the player pool. He is making his debut for the Reds. So that makes sense. You know, a lot of times that will happen with guys making their debut. He may be added before first pitch, so check back on that. But he's facing the Pirates. Great matchup for him. I am not looking to stack against him because it's the Pirates, because San Martin gets a lot of ground balls based on his minor league track record. And I would use him a pitcher if I could. I just can't here. Maybe that'll change. Maybe they'll get him added to the player pool before 1:10 p.m. Eastern. If he does, I would say he's #2 behind Cal Quantrill. If not, just leave that one as it is. The third pitcher for me, largely by default, is Jackson Kowar. Kowar is there simply because he can get strikeouts. He had awesome strikeout marks in the minors between stints in the big leagues. Those strikeouts have not followed him back up to the majors, though. He has a 5.73 skill interactive ERA in 4 starts since he came back up. That's mostly due to a lot of walks and not ideal batted ball data, but the strikeout rate is 21%. That is at least somewhat encouraging. He also did well against Cleveland back on September 1st, team he'll face today. He went 6 innings, allowed 2 runs, had 6 strikeouts. He struggled quite a bit since then, like a lot. But a good game is at least within his range of outcomes, which is not true for a lot of pitchers on this slate. So I can either stack here or use Kowar as my pitcher. I would say Kowar is my second-ranked pitcher currently in the player pool, again, depending on Martinez added, and then they are my second-ranked stack for tonight. Cleveland is against Jackson Kowar, so kind of a swing one there. The top stack ahead of Cleveland is the Reds facing the Pirates bullpen. The Pirates bullpen is pretty rough. They have a 4.82 ERA for the season. They walk a lot of dudes. Their batted ball data is not great. And now you're stretching them out and making the middle relievers go longer in the game. Probably not going to end super well. It's in Cincinnati too, which make things pretty nice for offense. So the Reds, I would say, are the top stack on the slate, facing that Pittsburgh bullpen. I think we should be all systems go there. So Reds are 1, Cleveland 2. Number 3 for me is the White Sox. They're facing Matt Manning, and that's a good offense. Manning is struggling right now. He's been re-upping his four-seam fastball usage his past 6 starts. He added a sinker in there. Doesn't seem like he likes that pitch very much. Been going back to the four-seamer recently. His skill interactive ERA in those starts is 5.22 with a 17% strikeout rate, an 11% walk rate, and he's letting up a 42% hard hit rate. He fights the White Sox last week. He held them to 3 runs or 5 innings, but also just 2 strikeouts compared to 3 walks. His hard hit rate was 53%, and now he has to face them for a second consecutive start. I think that they will do well here. So to me, I think the White Sox belong number 3 on this list. And that's not because of them. It's because I do like the other ones more. I think that the White Sox, a very good stack, just happen to be behind the other options for today. That means the Tigers will be 4th for stacking, but I don't want to use Dallas Keuchel at pitcher. Just no strikeouts there. And I'm also not sure if he'll get a full leash with the playoffs being locked up. It's not like he's a focal point of the rotation, but I'm not going to use him either way. The reason to be lower on the Tigers is ground balls. The fly ball rate allowed for Keuchel has always been low. It's 29% his past 6 starts with his changeup usage back on the increase. His hard hit rate in that time is okay at 37%. He faced the Tigers last week, and they did get 11 hits, but just 2 runs scored because they couldn't generate any power against him. So I'm okay stacking the Tigers here, but I do want to rank them below the Reds, Cleveland, and the White Sox for the batted ball reasons. So they're fine for stacking, just rank 4th. I will get to 4 stacks for today, especially because I'm going to have Kowar a pitcher sometimes. So I do think that the Tigers will get there for me, just not going to rank them above the other options. So the pitching options for today, as of right now, are Cal Quantrill, kind of Jackson Kowar, but very much an iffy option. If we get Raverson Martin added in, I would use him as well. Stacking is the Reds 1, Cleveland 2, White Sox 3, and Tigers number 4. Do you want to give dinger calls here? Because I can give some good ones on the main slate, but this is the better slate. So let's talk about it here. The boring home run call for me on the main or the early only slate be Jose Ramirez facing Kowar. Kowar doesn't let up a lot of balls in play, which is one downside for looking at some homers here, but Ramirez is very good. Kowar lets up a lot of fly balls and a lot of hard contact. So the boring one is Jose Ramirez. The fun one is the Schrock star, Max Schrock. Been hitting higher in the order for the Reds. I don't know how sustainable the power is, but it's been fine recently. So we'll go with Jose Ramirez and Max Schrock as the home run calls for today. Let's take a look now at the main slate. Again, it is a 2-game slate with locks at 8:40 as they're trying to avoid Monday Night Football. The weather is fine. Pitchers are better here. I will say that for sure. German Marquez is the highest salary pitcher on FanDuel at $9,000. Chris Flexen is $8,600. Cole Irvin is $83,000, and Josiah Gray is $8,000 for tonight. And I think the top pitcher on this slate, despite being at Coors Field, is German Marquez. I just think he's the steadiest dude. We've seen Marquez leaning more on his sinker recently, and that's brought his strikeout rate down to 21%. But he still has good batted ball data. He has a 29% fly ball rate allowed in that time. He's facing the Nationals here, which is never fun to target a pitcher facing Juan Soto, who can single-handedly destroy a lot of stuff. But I still think it's a fine matchup overall. They have a 93 WRC plus against righties. One concern with Marquez and one reason not to just lock him in, and despite ranking him first, is pitch count. The Rockies not in contention, and they're kind of acting like it. Marquez did go 99 pitches 4 starts ago, but that's more so the exception than the rule. He's been sitting around 80 to 90 for the most part. So Marquez not a must-have option. I think he's the best option, but he's not a must-have option for today in MLB DFS. I'm going to put Chris Flexen second. He's not a good DFS pitcher, but he's good for real life, and that does matter on a small slate. Flexen's been using more four-seamers recently, specifically over his past 8 starts. He has a 2.93 ERA in that time. That does include 2 starts against the A's, team he's facing today, including his most recent start. So they are familiar with him. But Flexen held them to 1 run on 3 hits across 7 innings last time out. He had 8 strikeouts. So I would say Flexen is right on par with Marquez for tonight. I'd probably put him above Marquez if it weren't a repeat matchup. Like, that's how well I'm going to view Flexen relative to the slate. So to me, Marquez 1, Flexen 2, but they're kind of a 1A and 1B. And if you're less worried about the repeat matchup, then I would say I'd be okay putting Flexen number 1 for tonight. I think you can consider using Josiah Gray at pitcher or stacking against him. The case to stack against him is pretty obvious because he is a massive fly ball pitcher at Coors Field. There are so many ways for that to go wrong. He led up 5 runs to the Rockies 2 starts ago, and that was in DC. Now he's in Denver. That could be terrible. So the Rockies are the top stack on the main slate. But Gray could be the highest scoring pitcher of the night. Like, it's possible. He has a 25% strikeout rate in the big leagues, which is the highest for anybody on this slate in their most relevant sample. He also doesn't let up a ton of hard contact. It's just that the hard contact he does allow is likely going to leave the yard based on the way things have gone. The Rockies are not great. That definitely helps things for sure. So I'll have both situations covered here. I will stack against Gray a bunch. Again, they're the top stack here. But I'll have some lines with him at pitcher as well, just because I think that there is a viable route to that being an okay play for today. That leaves Cole Irvin ranked 4th. He is a super low strikeout guy. It's hard for me to see him blowing up. He is last in the slate in strikeout rate and last in skill interactive ERA. Just against the Mariners last week, let up a couple home runs and 3 runs across 5 innings. His ERA is 4.61 since he started to go with more 4-seamers and fewer sinkers, and it's a 13-start sample. So nothing here is really super enticing. I might not use him at all, despite it being a 4-game slate. Just, I don't really feel the need to. He's the 4th-ranked pitcher for me, and the Mariners rank 2nd for stacking behind the Rockies. So pitching ranks will be Marquez 1, Flexen 2, again, 1A, 1B type situation there. And then Josiah Gray, a consideration at slot number 3. Stacking is the Rockies 1, the Mariners 2. I'd probably go with the Nationals 3 just because they're at Coors Field, and we'll put the A's 4th against Flexen. So again, short and sweet for today, given that we have really weird slates, more of a regular podcast coming back for your way tomorrow, 9 a.m. on the FanDuel YouTube page and up on the numberFire Daily Fantasy podcast feed after that. Because the slates are so weird, we're not going to have the MLB Q&A today at 4:30. We'll be doing just the Monday Night Football preview. Myself and Brian Williams breaking down Cowboys versus Eagles. So check that out on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. Head over there, 4 to 4:30. If you've got MLB questions, I can probably just squeeze them in during the show today, but mostly just focusing on NFL from 4 to 4:30 for today. If you've got questions for me, I am on Twitter at Jinsannes, JIMSANNES. You can also follow the FanDuel Podcast Network at FanDuel Podcasts. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today, despite the very bad slates. Good luck to you on both of them, and we'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.